87 teams to go on my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. Moving on now to the Florida State Seminoles, a team that, well, ever since making the first college football playoff back in 2014, has kind of felt like they've been in perpetual rebuild mode, and they've seemingly been that way for almost a decade. A couple years ago, this team brought in Mike Norvell to hopefully be able to get back to another bowl game in the postseason and hopefully start to elevate this program a little bit more, although all Seminole fans want at this point is to be back into the postseason. They got a lot of nice transfers coming in that we'll look at later. So can Mike Norvell take Florida State to his first bowl game in a Seminole under the control of the Florida State Seminoles, or will this be a team that, again, will feel like it is in rebuild mode and possibly be looking for a new head coach in the offseason? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason, and that means I'm doing your favorite teams. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when your favorite team gets uploaded, but also considering your favorite team, and especially if you're a Florida State fan in this video, you guys are going to know a lot more about your favorite team than me. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, leave that in the comment section down below, and I'll be happy to read through them. 2022 for Florida State. Let's get into it, shall we? They're my 8th ranked team in the ACC coming into the 2022 college football season. And again, this team is always seemingly one win away. And that's where they were last year, losing to the Jacksonville State Gamecocks last year in an FCS upset and an unbelievable ending in that game there as well. And that kept Florida State out of bowl season. They were 5-7 overall. 4-4 in conference play, so they were fairly competitive in the ACC play. It's just you got to win some more non-conference games now, right? And that's the key for Florida State in 2022. Win the non-conference games that you should win, and then be competitive. Go 500 in ACC play, and you are easily into a bowl game. When you look at some stats from last year, offensively, 379 yards with around 28 points per game last year. That's on the offensive side. On the defensive side, around 377 yards per game with 377 yards per game with around 27 points per game. So definitely a team that is seemingly statistically, their offense could improve a little while their defense could improve a little as well. But their offense is gaining just about as much as their defense is letting up. So not a bad place to be by any means, but you definitely want to see both sides of the ball take some steps up. When you look at some of the talent that is leaving this Florida State program, under head coach Mike Norvell, you got a couple quarterbacks leaving the room. Mackenzie Milton and Trevor Purdy. Two quarterbacks that kind of saw some playing time last year, but again, did not see majority playing time, are gone from last year. Although Mackenzie Milton, what a comeback story that was last year. That's one of the best things I've ever seen on a football field after the injury that he had. To be able to go back out there and play football is a miracle in and of itself. Didn't have the greatest stat line last year, only 775 yards, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, but credit to him for getting back onto the football field last year. It's one of the most amazing things I think I've ever seen on the gridiron before. Other than that, though, quarterback Chubba Purdy is transferred over to Nebraska, so he is gone. Jashawn Corbin, the leading rusher from a year ago, 887 yards and 7 touchdowns, gone off the team. Also running back Kalan LeBourne, another guy back there that's gone. Second leading wide receiver Andrew Parchment, who had 313 yards, a couple touchdowns as well, gone off of this Florida State wide receiver group. Lots of offensive linemen gone for this team as well. They also lose one of the best pass rushers in the entire nation in Jermaine Johnson, who had 70 tackles, 12 sacks for this team a year ago, but also a guy on the opposite side of him, Kyer Thomas. More of a defensive line linebacking duo player, but also, again, very much edge rusher type like Jermaine Johnson. Had 6.5 sacks, and that was by far and away the two sack leaders for this team a season ago. So they got to replace that production, as well as Jarvis Brownlee, who had 51 tackles, couple passes defended, 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 for this defense a year ago. So this is definitely a fairly interesting group of talent that is lost, but a fairly interesting group of talent coming back as well. Quarterback Jordan Travis is coming back for this team. Had 1,539 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions last year. Is not a great quarterback in my mind by any means, but definitely is a guy that can go in there and get the job done. He was also the second leading rusher on this team and the leading rusher they have coming back. 530 yards and also 7 touchdowns for Jordan Travis last year. Trayshawn Ward comes back for this team, though. He had 515 yards, 4 touchdowns, but they're also getting a running back transfer, Trey Benson, coming in for this team, and he's listed on a lot of depth chart sites to be that number 1 guy. Wouldn't be surprised to see him be that number 1 guy. Wouldn't be surprised to see Ward be that number 1 guy. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see them split time and Florida State goes to like a 2 running back type system. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Otherwise, in the wide receiver position, you got guys like Ontario Wilson, who was your leading target last year, 382 yards, 5 touchdowns coming back. Winston Wright is a transfer coming over from West Virginia. You got some couple other guys coming back as well, Malik McLean, among others. But also Micah Pittman is one of the biggest wide receiver transfers in the nation from a season ago, over from Oregon, and he's coming in to this Florida State program and figures to, in my mind at least, be that number 1 target. He's going to give Jordan Travis another weapon, and if Winston Wright going to be able to play this year, should give Jordan Travis yet another weapon there as well. This could be a fairly dangerous Florida State wide receiver group if all things work out. Tight end Cameron McDonald is coming back as well. Had a couple touchdowns for this offense last year. When you look on the defensive side, Derek McClendon is coming back. He had 3.5 sacks last year, as well as Jared Verse, Robert Cooper. They got a linebacker transfer, Tatum Bethune, I believe, over from UCF, but I could be wrong about his transfer destination. All in all, though, he is coming in. Kalen DeLoach, who had 69 tackles a season ago, is coming back. Jamie Robinson, though, that's a big get back in the defensive back group. 4 picks last year. That led the team in 84 tackles. That also led the team. Also, guys like Akeem Dent, Sam McCall. You could throw some other names in there as well that are coming in for this team. So definitely a Florida State team that's got the talent in order to be a bowl game team. But let's take a look at their schedule to see if they can get there. There are a couple landmines on this schedule. This is not going to be an easy schedule to navigate for Florida State. Non-conference, of course, you have that home game at the end of the year against the Florida Gators, the rivalry game, where I'm going to favor the Gators in that one, but also could be a game at the end of the year that decides who makes a bowl game and who doesn't. When you look at some other non-conference games here, before that Florida game, you got a home game against the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, who have been on top of the Sun Belt for a very, very long time. Although they're losing a lot of talent from a season ago, don't count out Louisiana this year, even though they've also lost their head coach, Billy Napier, over to Florida. Don't count Louisiana out. That can still be a fairly solid football team in 2022. When you look, you also play Duke Kents in Week 0, one of the few teams that play in Week 0, and a neutral site game with the LSU Tigers, another program that is kind of looking to get their foot back on track and get back on top of the college football world, as both of these programs usually are. When you look at the conference slate, though, you got home games against Boston College, Wake Forest, Clemson, and Georgia Tech. And you got to go on the road to play Louisville, NC State, Miami, and Syracuse. So let's go ahead and dive in to this Florida State schedule again. Looking at their non-conference games first, LSU, a team that's just got a lot to figure out. They got to figure out their quarterback spot. They have Jaden Daniels transferring from Arizona State. Could push to be that starting job. Miles Brennan also could push for that starting job there as well. A couple other guys that could do it. Lots of talent leaving that LSU program, but there is also a lot of talent coming in to that program as well. It's a very, very interesting LSU team coming into 2022, but it's a Florida State team that absolutely has a shot to pull off that win, although I'm going to favor LSU in that matchup. If Florida State plays well enough, they can win that game, absolutely. They played a very good Notre Dame team last year on a similar standpoint in this type of environment, although it is going to be kind of like in LSU's backyard, right? It's going to be in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, I do believe, so definitely going to be a challenging game for Florida State there, as well as the game at the end of the season against Florida. Anthony Richardson figures to be a Heisman candidate quarterback, so that's going to be a fairly interesting matchup there as well. When you look all across the rest of the board here, lots of tricky road games. I mean, on the road against NC State, on the road against Miami, those are two teams that figure to be, that's a potential conference championship game right there. NC State and Miami, definitely going to be an interesting road schedule, because you're also on the road in the Carrier Dome. Syracuse is a team that figures to be on the up and up, and they've been making steps in the right direction. On the road against Louisville, that's not an easy game there either. And then you got some really tricky home games. I mean, at home against Boston College, probably going to favor the Seminoles in that one. But you also got home games against Wake Forest, against Clemson, two of the better teams in the ACC by my projections. So definitely a lot to look forward to on this Florida State schedule. Now, I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based outlook to help me predict a team's record. So games in red, I just don't see a win. In games in orange, I still don't think you're going to win. But, again, it's college football, and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games that you should win, but watch out for the team on the other side of the ball. And games in green, you're good to win. So the game against Duke, Kent's week 0. See Florida State having no problem with that. On the road against Syracuse, I'm going to favor Florida State a little bit here. The Orange are capable of pulling off that upset, but I think Florida State could be able to get going towards the end of the season there. Same thing with a home game against Louisiana. Don't sleep on the Raging Cajuns. That can still be a very, very solid football team, even though they've got a lot of talent leaving. Their head coach is leaving there as well in Billy Napier. He's going over to Florida. Don't sleep on the Raging Cajuns. That can still be a tricky game, even though Florida State's playing at home. At home against Boston College, you could argue that that is a game that you should be putting in yellow there as well. I think I said that during my Boston College video. But I'm kind of 50-50 on that game as well. I'm going to favor Florida State in that one. But again, it's a game that you could put in yellow if you really wanted to. Georgia Tech, see them winning that. Otherwise, there's a lot of games in yellow on the schedule. I don't really see them beating NC State, Clemson, or Miami. I think those are possibly right there, the three best teams in the ACC going into the 2022 season. Otherwise, the home game against Florida at the end of the year, Florida's trying to break in a new head coach, a new system. But Anthony Richardson could prove to be one of the better quarterbacks in the nation this year. So while I'm going to lean the way of the Florida Gators, don't be surprised if Florida State pulls off that win at the end of the year. Could also be a game at the end of the year that absolutely decides who makes a bowl game or not. And that could be a very, very deciding game there. LSU, though, could also be a deciding game on whether or not one of those two teams make a bowl game in 2022. LSU, since winning the national title in 2019, has just been kind of down and has not been the same LSU team that we've known for quite some time. LSU, though, bringing in Brian Kelly, projects to be a better football team here. How good of a football team that's going to be remains to be seen. But LSU still definitely a team that you got to watch for in 2022. They can be a very dangerous team, and Florida State's got to go pretty much in their backyard to play. So that's a tricky game to win. Otherwise, there are some 50-50 games here in ACC play that you might have to pull one or two of them out. You might have to pull one, if not both of them out. On the road against Louisville, that's going to be a tricky one. Louisville also returning their starting quarterback. Lots of talent for the Cardinals. And Wake Forest, proving to be one of the better teams in the ACC last year. They were the ACC runner-up. And that team, the talent on that team is for real coming into 2022. This is a very interesting schedule for Florida State, and I can't wait to see how the season plays out. But I do have Florida State getting into a bowl game. I have them going 6-6 in 2022. That ceiling, though, I see, again, just them barely missing out on a bowl game. Again, I think a lot rides on that LSU and Florida games in non-conference play. Also, though, if this team puts it all together, I see that ceiling being 9-3. More realistically, probably about an 8-4 ceiling. But 9-3, I think, is absolutely a pretty decent possibility. Again, I think a lot of things have to go right, but it could happen. But 6-6 is where I got the Seminoles in 2022. Let me know your thoughts on the Seminoles in the comment section below. And hey, please like, comment, subscribe. Anything you can to help support the channel does mean a lot to me. And remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.